Last week on this show, we had a discussion on privacy and surveillance in South Africa. Today, we'll be focusing on how the Kenyan government uses technology, or its use of technology has raised concerns about surveillance and individual privacy. Now, while the Constitution guarantees the right to privacy, there are limitations, and reports of illegal surveillance and data collection have raised red flags as well. The risks of unregulated surveillance are significant. Now, to address concerns, Kenyans can educate themselves on their rights and also file complaints. Will the government balance security needs with individual privacy rights? Well, let's find out from our guest. We have Emmanuel Too, a reporter Citizen on Citizen TV, located in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, and thank you so much for joining us.
I apologize for coming late because, as you can see, I'm still in the newsroom trying to handle some stories for the day.
Oh, yes, we can see that. Thank you for your time once again. Now, Emmanuel, Kenya's constitution, guarantees privacy under Article 31. But we know that privacy rights can be limited under certain circumstances as well. Now, there have been allegations of, illegal surveillance, including the use of spyware like Pegasus and circles to monitor Kenyan citizens. How would you assess the legal and ethical implications of these surveillance practices?
Well, this actually provides a very serious legal issue because the laws of Kenya allow for privacy and the freedom of people to, the citizens, to enjoy their freedom and their privacy. And we actually have a commissioner who is responsible to ensure that that is put in place. But what we have seen in the recent past has, to some extent, gone against the provisions of the laws here in Kenya. And we have seen reports actually showing that the government is working in cahoots with the telcos, major companies that are supplying telecommunication here in Kenya, to subvert that part of the requirement of the law. And I think it is the country is gearing towards just moving away from what the law provides for. And this has actually caused an uproar among Kenyans who have asked that the government comes clean as to whether it is going to follow the law or not in terms of ensuring that part of the law is adhered to. And of course, we have seen so many activities, actually the past 1 week, and even a case that has been filed in Kenyan court of an alleged plan by the government to try and acquire a new software to spy on journalists. It was also said that there was a plan to spy on media houses, to have the government create a propaganda machinery to try and read what journalists are planning to report. And of course, it's a big problem, just like any other part of the country or of the continent, and it's becoming a big issue here in Kenya.
All right, now, Emmanuel, we've also seen reports of unlawful abductions and arbitrary arrests, in the wake of the June 2024 anti-government protests. How much of this can be attributed to unregulated surveillance by government agencies?
Well, the human rights organizations and the civil societies have really linked this to that unregulated surveillance, because the government can locate where I am right now using my phone, and there have been reports that some of those people who were abducted were located after the government accessed their information illegally or without going through the due process. And there's so many cases of people who said that they were just with their families at home, and then all of a sudden they're arrested and they're taken into custody, or some have been abducted and until now are not known, or their whereabouts is not known. And partly this has been contributed by the surveillance the government is doing on the citizens, even without consulting the laws of the land that provide that for such actions to be taken, there has to be a coordination. There has to be, you have to be served that you've being pursued for this and this, and the government has also to get confirmation, or rather the permission from the telcos to give them the details of where you are located at, and what you're doing, and whether that information is going to be used to affect your security. And so it's a big problem, as actually you have already mentioned in the opening remarks.
Okay. Now, given the widespread of, surveillance technologies like facial recognition cameras in Nairobi, are there adequate safeguards, in place to protect citizens' privacy and data? And also, if you can tell us, what role do you think courts should actually play in overseeing these surveillance activities?
Well, I think the judiciary, just like any other part, is tasked with the duty to ensure that it interprets the law as it says, or what it means. And many Kenyans have actually gone to court to try and seek the redress of the courts in terms of their privacy. And I think it is the last stop that Kenyans can actually have some hope in. But as already mentioned, these laws, actually, the government actually has said that where its right begins is where you as a citizen ends. And it has been a loophole, a very thin loophole that the government is using to spy on some of the users of mobile phones, especially, and going even beyond the systems that are being introduced to record information from the citizenry, especially when the government is capturing these details for election purposes, or for any other purpose that has really sparked a lot of concerns, and actually causing a lot of questions as to whether these factors are actually required by law. And we actually saw something just this week where the courts here in Kenya stopped something that the government was trying to do, where it had asked those tourists or foreigners coming into Kenya to register their mobile numbers or their details at the airport that will enable them to get to them wherever they will be in case of anything. And that is the thin line now, where the government is saying it is trying to ensure the country is safe, but there's also that part of US security and the privacy as provided by the law.
Okay. Now, from your own personal view, and also as a citizen reporter, the Nairobi surveillance system, talking about how much control that Kenyans actually have on their personal data. I want you to tell us just how much control do they have when it comes to their personal data. I know that there have been mandatory registrations of mobile SIM cards and digital payment systems, which have become very, very widespread. Do Kenyans actually understand the extent to which their data is being collected and also used?
I think many don't, and I think it's a very small population which is really concerned about their safety in terms of their data or their privacy, because we leave all these footprints everywhere. And but we have seen a lot of civic education being done by mostly the civil societies or the human rights groups, which are going to the slums, to churches, to schools, and every other place to try and sensitize the public. But in my view, very many people don't know how much information they leave during their day-to-day activities is being used to mine or to be used for other probably ulterior motives. And I think this should be a wake-up call to everybody to ensure that they also know the sites that they're visiting, to also check on where they're leaving their details, why they're being asked for the details, and what the details are being used for.
But in their defense, the Kenyan government has actually argued that certain surveillance activities are necessary for national security. However, there's been growing concerns about misuse of power as well. So how can Kenya ensure that its surveillance laws are narrowly tailored to avoid an overreach and also a misuse?
It's a very difficult question because, as I had already mentioned to you, the government will always have its way most of the times, and it is through just trying to create that balance between what the government wants and what you as a citizen is guaranteed by the laws. And probably, in my view, the best option should be and I think this should be the best option is for the courts to give the interpretation of when or how or where exactly the line is, because at times you as a citizen may really want to protect yourself, but the government says that it also wants to protect you. So it is a very dicey situation, but the courts are actually there to provide some of these balances that are required to, of course, even out some of these concerns from both sides of the divide.
All right, well, quite dicey indeed. But thank you so much for, your time and also for speaking to us on this.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, that was Emmanuel Too, reporter, Citizen TV, Nairobi, Kenya. And with that, we've come to the end of the conversation. We appreciate you for your time and for, staying tuned from beginning to end. We'll see you again next week, same time, same station. I'm Darshan Usman. Take care.